The Auburn Tigers have just taken down the Texas A&M Aggies by the score of 66-55 at home in Neville Arena. This is our reaction stream where we're going to talk about the storylines and the stats from the game. Let's get into it right now. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the different times, places, multiverses, avenues that you can get this content, we appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. On tap for you on this live stream, a very late night live stream, much later than I even thought it would be. We are reacting to the Auburn Tigers going 2-0 in SEC play, taking down the Texas A&M Aggies and Buzz Williams in Neville Arena, 55, and our boy JAYLIN Williams having quite a game for himself, and several other players having some good games too. We got to talk about all those things, but we want to hear from you. We want to start off by hearing from you by posting right now in the chat what you thought about, well, obviously where you're watching from, your city, state, international, and with a War Eagle. And we'd love for you to smash that like button. Is a huge way to help this show get started off on a great note. And obviously throughout the stream, share your thoughts, comments, questions. We're going to get into all these different things right now. We got Michael and Kevlar and Bubba checking in. He says, JAYLIN for president. I could not agree more. I really could not agree more. I am the biggest JAYLIN Williams fan out there, and don't you try to fight me on that. And I am so proud to continue to watch how he is continuing to progress as a player this season. A lot of fine people checking in over here, especially on YouTube. I always encourage you guys to watch on YouTube if you can. It's available on the other avenues, but that's the home base where you can get the best. It's easier for me to see all your interactions and stuff like that. Sometimes it gets lost in the translation, but we got lots of people even checking in on Facebook. I think everybody's excited tonight. So here, let me just start off by saying this. This is how you know this is a significant win. It is 11:30 on the Eastern Coast. It's 10:30 Central Time, which is where I assume the bulk of our audience is watching this. So it's not the most late time ever, but this is a, school night, work night. And folks are up watching this game, into it, and wanting to talk about it here on this stream because this is a significant win for the Tigers. We just talked about in our last stream the Arkansas win, what it was like to buck the trend of losing in Bud Walton Arena to the Arkansas Razorbacks, and to get an SEC road win and just a road win in general, but to create a little bit of a streak, to create bucking trends that were already there with Buzz Williams. I think the stat that they shared at the end of the stream or the end of the broadcast was 5 of the last 6 meetings between Buzz Williams and Bruce Pearl. Bruce had lost, and obviously that's something that you don't take lightly. And history matters, as Bruce has said recently in a press conference, and it's the SEC, so it just means more. So this one means a lot to, you can tell the Auburn fans the way everybody's showing up, especially for the stream live, and having some things to say about it. All right, so again, the typical format of this is we'd like to take a lot of your comments and questions. Then we'll start walking through some stats. We'll take kind of some of those in stride as you guys want to talk about them. The common thread that I see starting off tonight is JAYLIN Williams. JAYLIN Williams, folks. How nice is it to see a guy that has stayed much longer than we thought he'd be here, just because of the whole extra year that everybody gets these days, and taking the opportunity to maximize your time at Auburn. Now, Janai has done that too, and we'll talk about Janai as well, with some interesting things of late that have been happening with him and when he's active in the game and when he is somewhat active. But JAYLIN Williams has really cranked it up a notch this year. I'm not going to sit here and say 2 games into SEC play that JAYLIN is NBA ready, but he certainly has taken a turn in that direction. I think JAYLIN has shown you what we all expected out of him from that very first time that he played so many years ago, and got his own rebound and put it back for a slam dunk. He is an absolutely outstanding player, and he's a great teammate. There's a reason that we constantly post on our X Twitter account Hashtag Jalen Williams doing Jalen Williams things, or just Jalen Williams things, because he does everything a good basketball player should do. He contributes. Boy, did he contribute tonight in the stat sheet, but he shares the ball. He's not I wouldn't call him an energy guy, but he will bring the energy if he needs to. You can tell when he is in a flow, he can kind of bring the house down a lot, like KD or Chad Baker-Mazar, just because everybody loves him so much. All right, I know I'm gushing about him. I need to probably move on to another topic, but as you can tell, that I am super excited about this. Another comment I see that a lot of you are taking is this was an ugly win tonight, and I would agree with that. That there was times where this looked a little bit sloppy. I think what that lends itself to, in my opinion, is the comfortableness that this team has at home and being a little bit more loose with everything, right? Being a little bit more free with everything's almost to a fault, and getting themselves in some situations that they necessarily didn't need to be in. The storyline of the night was the defense keeping A&M without a field goal for the last 9 minutes. They did shoot their free throws well. We'll look at that in a second. And we forced those 19 turnovers. Look, defense wins championships in pretty much any sport, probably all sports. And if you can have a good defense and have the ability to score just a little bit, you're going to have a lot of success as a team, especially at home. When Auburn's played great defense most of the year, but when they have the jungle behind them, and by the way, shout out to the jungle tonight. And I'm super jealous of all y'all for getting those t-shirts that were given out. Makes me want to be a student again. But the jungle, not just the students, but the fans that showed up for another sellout crowd, obviously helped that defense a lot. Let's see what else. Cody's here. We got a lot of comments and questions tonight. Brian points out that this is a, kind of a trend right now across the country. A lot of great games this evening. The one before us that was kind of keeping our broadcast from starting on time, the Iowa State and not Purdue, Houston game, the last undefeated team. So there's a lot of good basketball being played, folks. And Auburn is amongst those that is playing some of the best right now, which is really, is really a good thing right now. Aiden didn't play much in the second half. Somebody points out Aiden Holloway satellite, anything to it. I think sometimes we look for things. I think more so it's just Bruce is making decisions on the fly with who's got the hot hand, who's doing the the most for us in that particular game. Aiden's been very hot or cold in terms of, when he's on or when he's quote unquote off. Trey has been a lot of times a more consistent person at that point guard, but I don't, and I think this is fair to say, I don't know if Trey would have a problem with saying this. I don't know that he, on a consistent basis, can replicate what Aiden has shown us. Trey is going to he's a consistent incline in what he's able to provide through the game, which is why I like him so much. But Holloway is definitely sometimes he leaves a little bit to be desired, but he's young. Good depth this year, absolutely. In fact, if you look at the points off the bench, again, the disparity is just clear here. 6 points for Texas A&M, 26 for Auburn. Wow, I keep getting choked up over it. I'm so moved by this game, guys. That it got me all choked up. But that's an incredible differential there for the bench points. Well, the fact that they only got 6 bench points, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I did not notice that Katie had a limp, but the way he was flying around from the very get-go being in this game, he was definitely a key component to our success tonight, being able to really not only bring the energy when he comes in, but bring production with that energy. I think he had like 7 points right away when he came into the game. Katie Johnson tonight with 14 total points. We'll walk through all these in just a second. I want to try to catch up on all. Look, Thomas, what are you doing? Thank you, first of all, but you continue to be quite too generous. It says hands up, clap, clap. Here we go. Okay, I'll do it. How about this? Anytime someone sends a super chat, I will sit here. I'll do this. Hey, you. I can be your little puppet on a puppet string. That's all it takes, I guess. Thank you so much for the super chat. Turnovers helped even it out. They very much did. All right. Wow, so many comments. We are going to be behind the entire night. You guys are, uh, giving us a lot of good stuff to talk about here. All right. If you had something that you wanted me to address amongst all those early comments, post it again. I'll get back to it. There's just so much got a great crowd here tonight to keep track of. That's kind of the good and bad sometimes of having everybody here. Let me look at some of the individual stats tonight. We talked a lot about JAYLIN Williams. Why do I keep getting choked up? Excuse me. Goodness gracious, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm just so moved by all this. JAYLIN Williams tonight, here is his complete stat line. 22 points, 8 for 10 from the field. So only 2 missed shots tonight for him. 1 for 2 from the 3-point arc. 5 for 5. Be still my beating heart. My favorite player had the best stat line of the night, and it includes 100% on free throws. JAYLIN Williams does JAYLIN Williams things. Rebounds, 8. Assists, 3. Only 1 turnover on the night. Did have 2 personal fouls. That's fine. But what a stat line for JAYLIN Williams. Is this his best stat line of the year? I mean, he's had some good ones so far, but 22 points, 100% on free throws, only missed 2 field goals tonight. High percentage shooting right there, and 50% from the 3-point arc. 8 rebounds, almost a double-double. Is that his best stat line of the night, of the whole year so far? It's so good. So good. Rhodes points out that the defense, we talked about this a little bit already, but the defense is so good. Here's some of the stats from defense. 6 blocks for Auburn, 7 steals, and rebounds wise, we'll get into that in a little bit, but defense on their own, but fueled by that awesome crowd, definitely helped win this game for them tonight. We had no technicals in this game. Everybody get excited. Yeah, I felt like at some point it was going to come the way that the emotions of that game were really going. To be frank, I was just surprised with the amount of theatrics and emotions on both sides that were happening. I think what you saw transpiring here was a team in Texas A&M, similar to Arkansas, trying to establish itself as one of the best of the SEC. And after taking their first early loss in the SEC play, you really can't afford to drop another one this early on, and you've got a hill to climb. So what Auburn has done has really separated themselves from that. And when I say second tier, I'm not saying they're not good, but y'all saw Texas A&M's got some players, but similar to Arkansas, they're not really playing as well as they could with all that talent as a team. Auburn has really separated themselves from that second group, being Texas A&M, Arkansas. We'll figure out where Ole Miss, Alabama fit and all that. But Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee clearly right now are the best of the SEC. Big Simp says JAYLIN Williams loves playing the jungle. Wouldn't you? I mean, that is just an absolutely great venue. I love being there as a fan. I can't imagine what it's like for these players coming to sell out crowds to just enjoy that so much. Obi-Wan Kenobi, again with the best name on an account ever. Buzz always seems to coach his greatest games against Bruce Pearl. There's a coach or a team or entity that always has your number. Doesn't matter if it's sports or whatever. Everybody's got that one thing that they just can't get the monkey off their back a lot of the times. Tonight, that's much different. For Bruce Pearl, that's been Buzz Williams. The second that Buzz Williams got into the league, I thought, we might be in trouble here. And we have been in trouble. Thankfully, not tonight, though. Thankfully, we had their number at the end of this thing. I'm ready for them to beat them other people in the state. Well, we got that coming up very shortly here. Devin checking in with us, giving us the lowdown on how the memes are coming. 335 in the replies so far. So, not back up to the levels we once were, but everybody's getting a little bit more excited about that. 3-game losing streak from Texas A&M also broken. Yeah, all great things to remember tonight. Bruce Pearl, even as long as he's been here and as great as he's been in breaking streaks or changing the narrative, he continues to find ways to reinvent himself and break even streaks that have started during his time. All right, let's continue to look at some of these stats right here. Oh my gosh. Brian, you are too kind, sir. Another super chat. Thank you, sir. Thomas inspired me. I look forward to this game all day long. This team is going to take us on a fun ride over the next few months. And I'm getting my little Auburn heart way too invested in getting overhyped about this. And I just hope that I don't get burned because folks, this is a great team. This is a great team. This is one of the best teams at this point in the season that I've seen Auburn put together in quite some time. And they're not perfect. Y'all saw it tonight. They played a little sloppy at times, but in their sloppiness, there's beauty too. And I just love watching them. So, Brian, great point. Thank you for the super chat. And because I promised it, you go, hey, you. It's hard to do it by yourself, right? It really is. You got to have like the band to time it all out. So, thank you, Brian. All right. Rest of the stat lines here for everybody tonight. JAYLIN Williams. I mean, do I even need to ask the question, folks? He's your player of the game, right? Is there? I'm not taking away from any of the other things other people did tonight. And there's players that deserve kudos, but is there? Y'all tell me in the chat. Is there any other player tonight that deserves player of the game other than JAYLIN Williams? I try to always make a case and say, hey, look at this player and look at that. Tonight, I'm just going to concede and willingly concede that JAYLIN Williams was the player of the game. Your other top scores tonight, KD Johnson with his 14. Pretty good stat line for him on the night, too, overall. Janai Broome finally got going in the second half, only 10 points, but had 7 rebounds, so he got close to a double-double as well. Everybody scores points except for Chris Moore, Lior Berman, and Chaney Johnson. Cardwell with 6. Chad Baker-Mazar with only 2 tonight. As active as he was in the game, the fact that he only had 2, it's interesting. Trey Donaldson with 4. Aiden Holloway with 6. And Denver Jones with 2. Denver Jones is the one guy that I'm kind of waiting to at least offensively wake up. And if he does, you're going to have a hard time beating this team ever. I'm just saying. Obi-Wan Kenobi, do you think Aiden should start over Trey? I think Trey has been great these last few games. Far be it from me to choose what the starting lineup should be, but we have talked about this in a different sense, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the discussion around Chris Moore starting and Chad Baker-Mazar not starting. And I will say the same thing there that I will say about this question. It is very easy for us as fans to look at trends and think, well, that person should be starting as a reward, right? Because they're playing maybe more consistently in a more consistent fashion. I would say that Trey right now has been more consistent as a point guard. And I think that's a very fair statement and in a good consistent too. But I would also say that a lot of times that we get focused on that when we forget what happens with creating almost not a platoon system like Kentucky used to do, but the value of coming off the bench in that role and what you can provide. Bruce has said it in a press conference recently that the defense that comes off that second squad, the second team, is better than the first team. You see a lot of leadership in that first team that comes out and starts. And that's why we get off to typically this season some pretty good starts too. So my philosophy is if it ain't broke, don't change it. But if he wants to make a change, he's the head coach and he can do whatever he wants, That's my opinion on all that. This reminds me of a Final Four team, not so much the threes, but finding a way. It's a more complete team that might find themselves high at the end of all these things. Let's see. We'll look at some of the other games coming up here in just a second. Chris says we need to feed Broome. 0 points in the first half should not happen. Well, so there's 2 ways to look at that, Chris. He is known as our biggest weapon in terms of the obvious. He is the best player on the team, at least perception wise, but in production wise for a lot of the season thus far. And SEC teams and all teams are seeing that and they're clamping down on him. And so they're trying to get the ball to him, but Texas A&M at times tonight made that very difficult to do. But when the other players, JAYLIN Williams, Katie Johnson are stepping up, then you have to divert more attention to them. That's when things open up. I'm just happy to see that when Janai gets his opportunities, he takes care of it. And that's exactly what we said on social media during the game. Got to have Janai step up again, like he did against Arkansas. And 10 points is not like the most amazing stat line in the world, but he did what he needed to do to create some space for us to breathe in a very close game, too close of a game. Why do we struggle so much against A&M? Against the press, against A&M, because Buzz Williams is a good coach. That's why. Against the press, I don't know. It's a good, I'd have to look more into that. It's a good question and good pickup if that's true. To me, 19 turnovers for A&M is the stat of the game. That was huge. Yeah, we'll look at that and pick a stat of the game here in just a second. Chaney, with a year of SEC experience, will take strides. And look, Chaney is playing behind Janai in ways. He's playing behind JAYLIN. He's playing behind Dylan. You know, he's got a lot of firepower in his path to see more minutes and to be able to be the guy on this team, or a guy on this team. And that will come with time. Patience, patience, patience. Oh, I see a stat that someone just posted. You've been here a while, Michael. You know the stat that I love the most. So, yeah. All right. Did we talk about everybody individually? Yes. JAYLIN Williams, player of the night as an individual. Let's look at the team stats, everybody. Let's take a look at all these things. Shooting wise tonight, wasn't the most outstanding shooting performance by both teams. Auburn had the best night overall, 39% from the field, 23% from the 3-point arc. So a little bit different from last game where we made a lot of threes and shot a lot better than that. It's not terrible, but it's also not that great either. And if it's not for the defense tonight and playing at home, this might have been a little bit different of a story. We did break the 80% mark on free throw percentage with 81%. Y'all been here for a while. You know I preach. Free throws. 80% is where you should be. 81% tonight. Took care of business. Also, the other two places I focus on, turnovers tonight. 19, as y'all have brought up for Texas A&M, 12 for Auburn. So a sloppy game for both teams. A lot of emotions, a lot of physicality to this game. And then rebounds, 44 for Texas A&M to 34. And this is really what made this scary. Not only did Texas A&M win the free throw percentage battle, just barely though, but they also created enough of a differential there rebounding wise, especially offensive rebounding. What is that? 19-8, doubled us up. That is why they were in this game, folks. Got a little bit scary. A little bit scary at times, more than it should have been. Did Bruce tie the all-time win record tonight, Scotty? That's a good question. I was keeping track of that and I lost track of it. I'll have to look at it after the game. If somebody else wants to do that research and let us know in the stream, please do so. I think JAYLIN won his 100th game tonight. Is that what it is as an Auburn Tiger? But I forget where Bruce is on that list. But I need to know that. Now it's going to bug me the rest of the game. All right, other stats for team tonight. Auburn doubles up pretty much. Texas A&M on points off of turnovers. What else is more interesting? Bench points might be the tail of the game. 6 for Texas A&M. Look, they've got some great players. Coleman, but also Radford. Radford's a scary good basketball player. And if he went off tonight, this could have been a little bit different of a story. I will tell you that when the prognosticators get up in the morning and talk about a 66-55 Auburn win, a lot of them are probably not going to know how close this was at times. They're going to look at that stat line and say, hey, yeah, Auburn kind of took care of business at home. Texas A&M kept it somewhat close. It was a lot closer than that. We just made our free throws down the stretch, and they made a few one too many errors. The other thing to keep in mind, too, and you very rarely see it called, and I was surprised they did in that situation, Texas A&M stepping on the out-of-bounds line, inbounding the ball after a made basket. That is a new in basketball. You got to know where you are, especially in those type of situations. And a lot of times I notice that happens a lot and they're not looking for it. So I was surprised they did. which maybe tells you how blatant it was. I mean, I saw it wide open there on the TV. Bruce Pearl's 200th Auburn win. Wow. 13 away from Eves, it looks like. Build the statue now. That's the conversation for another day. A&M didn't really swat the ball back out to the guards on rebounds like they did last year. Kind of curious why. JAYLIN, I'm going to disagree with you. That's, especially in the first half, what I saw them doing a lot. And maybe why they didn't do it as much as maybe you thought they did. I'm sure we saw the coaches saw the same tape that you're thinking about and said, hey, that's what they did. That's how they got a lot of their points last year. Don't let them do it again. Man, a lot of history just happening right now for Auburn basketball. All right. Points in the paint is fairly even, but in Auburn's favor. Fast break points is pretty well in Auburn's favor, 14-3. You know, if I had to pick the stat line of the night, it's probably going to be that fast break points, just because it's 3-14 at home. If you got a good fast break game going with that kind of crowd, you're just really going to make it difficult for your opponent to win the game. So there you are. All right. What haven't we hit yet? Storylines, stats, mentions for players tonight, questions. There was a lot of comments in the chat. So put those in now. We're not done quite yet, but let me go ahead, since we've gotten to this part of the show, give you what to expect next from us so you don't miss out on any content here. Tomorrow night, live, the Auburn Family Night is back, 8 Eastern time, 8 Eastern time. I say that again, 8 Eastern time. Check in with us here. You can call in. We can talk about anything that you want to discuss, Auburn related. Don't miss that. LSU post-game show on Saturday. That one will be a little bit different because I'll be on the road. So we should be able to do it right after the game, but there may be some delays or things like that. The Auburn Experience, episode 62 this Sunday. Don't miss that either. 9 Eastern time on YouTube and everywhere else you can broadcast. And of course, Auburn versus Vanderbilt post-game show. Well, more than a week from now. So that's our next scheduled content here. Follow us everywhere. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, for all kinds of Auburn content. And smash that like button if you enjoyed this content tonight. Let's see here. I think Cardwell is a better fit versus A&M than Broome. I don't know if it's about fit, JAYLIN, Hurts fan. I would say it's more so that they keyed off of Janai, trying to keep him locked down, and did a pretty good job in the first half, especially. And they underestimate Dylan. I think that's more so it. But I mean, maybe he's a better fit for that reason. I don't know. I just love that he is stepping up his game. You've got a lot of players that have been role players, pieces to other sets the last couple of years that are really stepping up their game and accepting what their role is on it. When you've got buy-in as a team into everybody's role, look what happens. It's crazy, isn't it? Everybody knows Janai is the guy. Everybody knows Aiden Holloway is the phenom. KD has accepted that he's probably going to come off the bench and go crazy some nights and some nights not, but he's accepting of that. Dylan has learned that he's got to step up production-wise. He's doing that. Trey has learned that as a point guard too, and he's doing that. And Jaylin Williams is being Jaylin Williams, the Jaylin Williams that we always knew that he could be. Jackson, we shot better in a few other games, and depending on, because we're playing Kentucky here, Tennessee there, I would say we can shoot poorly at home and still get the win with that defense and home environment. But yes, on the road, you definitely got to shoot well, which is what they did against Arkansas. And you saw the success, right? Ugly win, but a win is a win is a win is a win. Only 2 lead changes the whole game. Auburn led most of the way, but kept getting out rebounded. It got a little scary there, though, didn't it? Texas A&M did a good job of running in there with their athletes and drawing fouls and getting Auburn into some foul trouble. But yeah, it obviously got a little scary there, but thankfully it worked out in our favor. Has Auburn ever gone undefeated in basketball? I highly doubt that. because remember how big a deal they made that for was it Duke or Kentucky several years back now? I can't remember, but I would say no. If they did, it was so long ago when they played like 10 games this season. So there you go. All right. In summary tonight, Auburn, Texas A&M, 55-66. Auburn gets the win, 2-0 in the SEC, heading on to Vanderbilt. We're welcoming LSU. I got ahead of myself this weekend. Do not sleep on the LSU Tigers. I know they have taken a step back over the last few years, but got to get this win and keep this streak going. Getting off to a strong start in the SEC is going to put us in our best foot forward for when we get to the Ole Misses, we get to the Alabamas, to the Kentuckys, to the Tennessees. All that's coming up, and some of these teams we'll see again. So got to continue to build this great startup. The refs this is probably one of the worst ref games that I've seen this season. And, we're always going to be a little bit biased in our opinion of them, but there definitely seemed to be a little bit of not favoritism because we were the home team, but convenientness to some of their calls at times and things they did and didn't see. But I'm sure Texas A&M fans would say the same way. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about that tonight. So, again, summary, 66-55, Auburn wins, 2-0 in the SEC. JAYLIN Williams is the star again, and I could not be happier for that man. Katie Johnson with a great game tonight. Janai stepped up towards the end as he did against Arkansas, resulting in your Tigers being 2-0 and continuing to have high success and probably going to move up in the rankings, especially if they get that win against LSU coming up. You guys have been a great crowd tonight. I've appreciated you being here and hanging out with me, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Do not miss tomorrow night, our live call-in show. Talk about anything and everything Auburn at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Auburn Family Night. It's always a good night. I can't wait. So I'll talk to you guys again. War Eagle.